Hey guys, if you want a really simple, inexpensive, side clicky light that's very pocketable and very powerful, the Nitenumen NE01 might be a good choice for you. You can pick this guy up in the low to mid 20s right now on gearbest.com. Of course that price is going to change over time, so I will put a link to it in the description. This flashlight is a clone of the Nitecore MH20. Now the MH20 is an $80 light, so if you're in love with that light, you don't want to shell out 80 bucks. This Nitenumen is a really good alternative. And a lot of people, if you check on the forums, have actually done a lot of testing, and this light is actually very comparable to the Nitecore. There's not a ton of difference. In reality, it's probably made from parts from that same Nitecore factory, or possibly even made, with just some minor changes. Now there are some changes in the modes and brightness and lumen, so it's obviously not the same electronics and all that, but very close to the money. And if you're not picky, you probably won't mind the difference. So let me pull up the numbers. They advertise their low mode as being 2 lumens for like 300 plus hours. I ended up with 23 lumens, so obviously quite a bit brighter than what they advertise on the low. So it's really not a true moonlight mode like they advertise. The next mode is 80 lumens for 32 hours. I got 88, so very close there. Next mode up is 320. I got 298, and that mode will give you, looks like 6 hours. Next mode is 650. I got 604. And for 3.2 hours, the last mode, which is the turbo, is 1,000 lumens for, looks like 2.5 hours. I ended up getting about 975 for turbo, and my runtime on it was not 2.5 hours, I'll tell you that. My runtime was actually 86 minutes. And at the end of that 86 minutes, the battery was still at 3.59 volts, so it still had a lot of juice left. I could have run it a long time. Now what this light will do is depending on the battery you're using, at 68 minutes, the LED behind the switch started turning red, and then at 86 minutes, it basically would no longer work in turbo mode. You could still access the lower modes, but turbo modes were gone. So can you get 2.5 hours out of this? Yes, if you let the light ramp down, but you're only going to get the full, 975 lumens, at least what I measured, the 1,000 lumen we'll just say. You're only going to get that for about 86 minutes, which is about 1 hour and 23 minutes. So as I mentioned, this is a light that takes a single 18650 battery. It only has a side click switch. It has a really nice deep carry pocket clip that you can pull off. Of course, typical type 3 anodizing, some good knurling on the body, some nice cooling fins cut into the head. The head, of course, is a little bit bigger than your standard tube light, so it will give a little better throw than your average run-of-the-mill tube light. It is USB rechargeable with a USB port here on the back. Smooth reflector, anti-reflective glass coating, and actually, you do have to use protected batteries. Has a nice coated spring on the tail cap. The threads are trapezoidal cut, which we'll see if we can see that. They came nicely lubed. As you can see, quite a bit of lube on them and a really good O-ring with them. There's your battery. I'm using an NCR 18650B. Of course, and it just has the driver in there. There's no spring on it, which is why you have to use the button top protected batteries. And I would recommend using the protected batteries anyway. With a budget like this, you never can be too careful. So, really good user interface as well, guys. Now, one of the cool things I like about this for an EDC style light is you have instant access to strobe. So if you are using this light, you're walking on the street, are they the Jets, are they the Sharks, who knows, they're snapping their fingers and singing songs, boom, push the button while the light's off, and if you actually tighten your thing down all the way, you will go instantly to strobe while the light's off. One more time will bring you to SOS, then one more time turns you off. So very easy. So if something's going on, bam, you're immediately to strobe, no messing around. I do like that. Now going into your main modes, of course you're going to go through those low, medium, high. and then double click will bring you automatically to turbo. So if you are on low, double click brings you out of the turbo. So really good user interface on this guy, because if you can get really quick access to that strobe, and you also get pretty quick access to the turbo, just as easy, and of course then it shuts off from there. Really good beam profile, really good looking LED, no ugly tint to it or anything like that. It tail stands quite nicely. Also will let you lock out, which is a really cool feature with lights with anodized threads. So basically, if you're worried about this coming on in your pocket, you can just literally unscrew the tail cap the tiniest bit, and the light will lock out. Now it's not loose, you know, it's not going to come rolling off there, but at the same time you don't have to worry about that turning on in your pocket. So very handy little feature, very commonly seen in the nicer better quality lights at least. So I did want to point that out. It's very, especially for an EDC light, very handy. I carried this thing for quite a while. The pocket clip is actually really good. It has a lot of space there, so it'll fit in if you're wearing kind of thicker work jeans or something like that. The heat, this thing's going to get pretty hot, guys. You run this thing on turbo, it's going to get hot. And it's going to get hot in a hurry. So one thing to be warned about with that. Now, one other thing about running this thing, when you run it on turbo, it does step down after a couple minutes, so it does go into a lower mode. So in order for me to test this, I actually had to sit there and bump this thing back up to turbo every couple of minutes. So it is something to know. If you want that 1000 lumen turbo, you're going to have to keep jacking it back up, because it does ramp down to protect itself, which is good. And a light this small can generate a lot of heat in a hurry, but this thing, it'll get pretty hot in your hand after 10 minutes of blasting this thing on turbo. So it does have, of course, as I mentioned, as you run, there's a red LED that will tell you when it's low, and of course that gave me about 14 minutes of warning before the light even ramped down, and it still had plenty of juice left in the battery from there. USB charging, I really didn't use it that much, to be honest. Once I read on the internet that it was, some people were having issues with overcharging. I never really messed with it, but I did charge a couple batteries in it. It didn't overcharge on mine, but it is definitely something to note and could be a concern. I very rarely charge batteries and flashlights, guys. I really prefer to put them on a charger. I think it really helps with the longevity of your batteries. So overall, guys, this thing has a super nice build quality for the money. I mean, this thing is quality-wise just as good as the Nitecore. It's the same shape, same size, pretty much the same everything, just a little difference in the modes, a little difference in the brightnesses and the run times, but altogether, if you like that Nitecore, you're not going to be Nitecore. Did I say Nitecore? What am I thinking about? Bull here. If you really like that Nitecore and you just don't want to spend the money, this is definitely a good way to go, especially if you catch these things on sale for about 23 bucks. So there it is, guys. Very happy with this little light, and very good EDC.